Bet you smoke weed and hang out on 4chan and 8chan.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing over there.
Bravo 6.
Yo, Pasta Homeboy, what's going on? Oh, his mic probably took a shit. That's what he did last time.
Huffing ether. Well, I need to change my ear battery anyway. It just started beeping at me.
Hey.
I was gonna go live myself, but
yeah, let's see if we can get his mic going. It's a nice one. Just sometimes whenever he goes live or records it, it gets all messed up.
I had problems with my mic, and then I don't know. I moved it to where it is now, and it works great. So I don't move. I can.
All right, guys. I got 3 guests with me today. We have my indispensable co-host Cheese and Manuel Defango, who has been making the rounds on social media because of all the drama surrounding Eliza Blue. Manuel, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm sad that they nuked my Twitter account, but everything else is like going pretty good, I guess.
Was there a
life is good?
Was there a specific tweet that they notated that was the culprit in you getting banned?
No, they didn't actually. They said it was for ban evasion, which makes sense because I was most definitely evading many bans. Many bans.
All right, hold up. Cheese, what do you mean my mic is broken? Can you not hear me?
I don't know. You were quiet earlier. Yeah, you're fine now.
Yeah.
But throw up your screen so we can see what you're looking at.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let me go ahead and start the virtual camera. Oh, you should have done that beforehand.
Yeah, I was trying to catch you. I was like, yeah, we're gonna go live. I was like, whoa, hold on.
Oh, wait, give me a second.
There he goes.
All right, can you guys see me? All right, there we go. Yeah. So I have Twitter up right now. Now, Manuel, Mr. Defango, go ahead and bring us up to speed on this Eliza Blue situation. Give us the Cliff Notes version of this incident and why it's important and why it's even getting the attention that it's getting, even after it's been over a week since this began, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. About a month ago, I got blocked by Eliza Blue on Twitter after I had been kind of making fun of her and asking questions about her story that she wouldn't answer. And she blocked me. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do a thread about this bee. And I did the thread, and it got some decent attention. A lot of people were retweeting it. I went up like 3 times the amount of followers. I went from like 100 to like 500-600 pretty easily. Then out of nowhere, probably about a month later, Brittany Venti decides that she's going to get onto the case of Eliza Blue and tweets at her, creates a massive drama, gets her Twitter account locked down so that she has to delete tweets. Obviously, she doesn't want to do that. So then Jeremy from the Quartering decides to come to her support, does the same thing that she did to get locked out, also gets locked out. And then, this kind of snowballed out of control. It was originally about Eliza Blue's questionable past and history of being a survivor based on her own words. And it turned into, wow, I guess I really don't care too much about her past, but she's kind of a bitch for getting all these people censored, and it's because of Twitter and Elon. So now everybody's talking about it all across the airwaves, whether on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, it's just like a viral sensation now. Like everyone's talking about it. Even Tim Cass IRL is going to be doing a piece on it.
Yeah,
they're getting the exclusive.
Yeah, they are. And to me, that looks more like a attempt to kind of cover up or mitigate the damage that's already been done. So they're beating the Daily Beast. They're beating Fair and Balanced, who's doing that documentary. Very, very interesting. And she's like gloating about it. Let's just go ahead and go over to Eliza Blue's Twitter really quick, because there's been some interesting stuff on her page. Now, you've crossed paths with Eliza many years ago, and you've kind of known who she really is as a person. So something that stuck out to me was, let's see, where's this post at? Right here. So 19 hours ago, she writes, "I love Jesus Christ and he loves me back. I used to be afraid to say that in public, but I'm not afraid anymore." Oh, was she always
Whoa.
was she a Christian of any
No.
sort in the past?
No. She used to make fun of me for being a Christian because I'm actually Catholic, and I make
Yeah.
crack jokes about it all the time by myself, right? Because once you're Catholic, you're always Catholic, technically, even if you don't want to be. So like this right here is just kind of like hilarious, and I've been saying it for a while that people are like, well, what's gonna happen after she gets exposed? And I was like, duh, she's gonna do the Jesus is King arc, like the same thing that Andrew Torba did, like after he had a whole bunch of shit happening to him. Everybody always falls back to, oh, I'm a Christian and I love Jesus or whatever. I was just laughing about this is funny.
She never struck me as somebody who was religious or spiritual in any way, shape, or form. And then she followed that tweet up with, wait until I collaborate with Kanye West. I'm not gonna say yay because I don't care.
Dude,
I refuse.
I've been saying publicly for a long time, I'd be like, yeah, me and Yeezy are friends, like I know some people that collaborated with them on his shoe brands and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's like she's meta trolling or whatever, or I'm just predicting the future again, but this shit's funny because like she's definitely able to get close enough to him now because he's hanging with like a whole new group of people, whatever. You won't even talk to my homeboy Mod anymore, which is crazy to me because he's not even Jewish or anything like that. He's just like, oh, you were in with the Balenciaga Nike deals or whatever, so like you guys are whack. And I'm just like, whatever ye, dude, you're fucking crazy, bro. That dude's crazy.
Oh, I know. I believe it.
Straight up.
This is what
He's
is what I
nuts.
see. When she said that she's going to collaborate with Kanye West, I almost believe it. And there's something that Robert Barnes and Viva Fry where they both where Robert Barnes said it in his stream. He said, this is after the Nick Fuentes Kanye West dinner with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Robert said, be wary of the individuals surrounding themselves Kanye West because it is grifter central. It is 100% grifter central, and that's exactly what I see here. Eliza Blue, Eliza Fraud, she's burning all these bridges. So now she's doing the Jesus grift, and now she's going to be hanging out with like the ultimate outcast, Kanye West, and hopefully trying to remain relevant and famous, which is what appears to be what she's always wanted. And now that she's got the fame and a free Tesla and a friendship or relationship of some kind with Elon Musk, now all of a sudden it's kind of backfiring on her. Did you always get the sense that this is like an attention-seeking, fame-seeking person?
Bro, it's so much deeper than that, bro. Like back in the day, her and her friends on MySpace, you remember MySpace? Were you on that shit?
I did. I was actually like a scene kid myself. I was all about that kind of music. I've never.
So how did you not see this bitch, dude? How could you have not seen this girl?
It was a long
Everybody
time ago.
in the scene was on MySpace and on Stickam. And all I remember, like pretty vaguely and pretty clearly at times, depending on, like where we were at the particular time and, what was happening at the particular time. Because like I, for the most part, the entire time that I knew her, I wasn't actually a person that imbibed in many recreational substances. Like I think that, I might have gone skiing once or twice, but like, nothing out of it, nothing crazy. None of the other crazier things that are available to people that were available to people back in 2007, which was pretty much everything. So I think that when I first met her, she was like a crazy person. Like it was a funny story, right? Me and my friend Brennan were like hanging out. We were doing his live stream or whatever. We had like 10,000 people or something like that watching us. It was pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And he was talking to like Jeffree Star, and he's like, hey, Jeffree Star, like Jeffrey's like, what are you guys doing after this? Like you guys want to come out to LA and come hang out? And I'm like, all right, he's like, all right, let's do it. So like, we went down there and hang out in LA. And then, like, this is where we actually like first run into this girl, and she was a completely different soul. Let me tell you this, like she was lighter. That's probably safe to say. She was lighter. She was much lighter on the body at that particular time because maybe it was because she was on drugs. I'm pretty sure that she was running around telling people that she was like straight edge at the time. But You know, she was older than I was, but, you know, obviously she was definitely a looker. So, you know, like I was paying attention. But, you know, for most of these folks that I was getting introduced to, it wasn't my scene. Like my buddy Brennan was like a scene kid.
Yeah.
And then like I was like the normal guy. And then he was like,
okay.
I like having you around because it's like funny to get your reaction about like some of the stuff that you see, because you ask really funny questions about the crazy people. Because like some of those scene kids, man, like they had like, I'm like, bro, how long did it take you to do your hair? And it's not like I'm trying to make fun of them. It's an honest question, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you did that shit for 6 hours and you got it to look like that? You even had enough hair to do that, you know? Like, and I'm not making fun of the kid, right? Like, I'm actually genuinely just surprised and, you know, like amazed and trying to give him praise, right? Because like I guess back in the day stuff like that was a lot different. So like I've always played the character of like a man's man, which, you know, that's definitely who I am. And I think that, you know, when we first saw Eliza, like she was like one of the girls that was in the chat, and she had like some credibility on the site already, because when I was first introduced, my buddy Brendan was on the site, you know, like he was the main one that was doing most of the stuff. Like I'm the tag along or whatever. I was just always at his house, and you know, we were doing the shows or whatever. So he's like, yeah, come be my host. Yeah. And I was on Stickam. So this is where we first like got into her. And then I remember like looking her up and seeing her MySpace and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. But there was just like a ton of fucking profiles of her. Okay. Like so many, too many, in fact. Like normally there'd be like 2 or 3 fake ones for somebody, but she had a million of them, right? Like there was just so many profiles that seemed to have been connected to her, and people were trying to impersonate her, whatever, what have you. But it all came out a little bit later that she had actually a group of people that was the world's most hated crew. All right.
Yes.
Like this is a very important part of the story, because this is right at the start of the time when Reddit was also starting to take off, right? Like, you know, we had the 4chan era for a little bit, and then after the 4chan era kind of subsided a bit, everybody kind of split off into like, we're going to go be a little PC on Reddit, or, you know, we're going to go be trolls on 4chan. And then, you know, the real degenerates, all those people are over on Something Awful still. So, you know, like there was a pretty good separation.
I know Richard Lotax. May he rest in peace.
Yes, may he rest in peace, that piece of shit. I paid him like $30 to son of a bitch.
We'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, like that's good to like. It's just good to know that I understand. Do you have stairs in your house?
Oh God, I can't remember. Fuck, dude. It's been so long since I've heard that. Oh my God, what a blast from the past. Do I have stairs in my house? I'm not gonna answer that because I forgot how to answer it.
Okay.
But I know.
Well, I guess that now I know that you're not a goon. That's all I really know now.
I am not a goon anymore. A goony goon.
No. But I just remember these things from a long time ago. So it's like this girl right here had like a group of people. Like I can't even remember what the hell their names is, but there is actually a video out there that does discuss these individuals pretty clearly. And I've met every single one of them. They were like a whole little crew that was bouncing around between different people's shows. Like it didn't matter, like whoever was famous or whatever, whether it was my friend Brandon or Mr. Jeffree Star or whatever. If you had any type of like internet credibility, play or whatever, these people were like reaching out to you directly on Facebook, MySpace or whatever. And I mean, it was a confusing time for me because I was more of like in the hacker mindset. Like I spent most of my time on like the Ninja Video forums and other like hacker style pirate forums or whatever, because, you know, like that's what I was like more worried about, like freedom of speech and like trying to create new internet money and, you know, like fuck the police. And like I didn't really get down too much with the trolling, but like I did like to like pay attention to what those people were. So like, you know, like I was always there anyways. So it's like every big internet event from like, I feel like, I don't know, 2004, the very beginning to like now is basically like, you know, like I was there with in the Habba Hotel shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
man,
what the fuck?
another thing I haven't heard in a long time. Man, what a fun,
You know,
what a
like-
fun stream. I'm going to remember all this.
So it's like all of the shit that, you know, we did back in the day was funny, but it was just like I used to always go out and like experiencing this other half of the internet scene, and that's like meeting this girl.
Yeah.
Except for she was like super fucking random. And that is being, I guess, generous, because it was kind of different. It's like, I mean, I met her, I felt like I was going through some sort of job interview, like I was being cased, like she was asking me questions, like she was sizing me up to see if I was cool or something like that. And you know, I didn't really pay attention to it, but over time, you know, like from the different times that I'd meet up with her, my friend Brennan, you know, like bring other people with them, and I would notice things, right? Because I'm a noticer of things, you know,
Yeah.
the itch gets scratched. And you know, I've noticed that like guys like Jeffree Star seem to have I don't know, a proclivity for the younger side of folks, right?
Mhm.
And you know,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, that doesn't seem to be right. And then very quickly, I'm not gonna say I was ostracized, but you know, like they didn't, you know, like they stopped wanting to invite me to some of these private parties because, you know, like they didn't want to let me see what was going on in the backspace, because obviously I had some problems with some things that, you know, I figured
Yeah.
was going on over there. So
And I take it you were kind of vocal about some of the things you took
yeah,
issue
I
with?
was vocal about that, and I told my friend Brennan about it. I wanted to talk to him about it on his show, and that's what ultimately kind of separated with us, because he was like, "No, we can't go after people like that. You know, like everybody's, you know, it's just gonna go away or whatever." And I'm like, "Well, you know, I don't think it's gonna go away." And you know, we took to Reddit and other places to kind of like figure out, you know, who's actually getting hurt in this particular situation. Because to me, it seemed like a pretty black stain. You know, like you had a bunch of these scene artists that were allegedly supposed to be like good guys, but essentially, you know, like these guys were scamming on young chicks through utilizing their MySpace profiles and stuff, and it was like totally easy access for them, so like they could just have the pick of the litter. But the thing is it was the same way for the chicks. So like for girls like Eliza, you know, it didn't matter if she could it didn't matter if she didn't have a lot of friends or whatever to help her out. She didn't need them, you know, like the 3 or 4 of them could set up massive amounts of profiles really quickly, and then they would like spam people, hey, come to our show, hey, come do this, come do that. And it almost seemed like, you know, she had her own little operation going on back then, because like it seemed like she was the one that was like sussing out like the people that they were going to eventually take back to, you know, the private parties and the shows. And, you know, okay, maybe it's like a promoter style arrangement, but generally a promoter is getting people into the club, not taking people out of the club into a private party where, you know, like no money's going to be made. And if money's going to be made, it's going to usually be in the drug varietal type of money, right? Because you know, people probably getting a private house, they're probably gonna get some mollies, popping mollies, you know, maybe do a little bit of candy flipping if they can find a little lysergic acid or something like that. You know, like this is the kind of lifestyle that those kids used to roll. And I mean, you know, like you would see that each and every single one of them like had each of their own things. So if you've ever watched that movie Party Monster,
Oh
with
god,
Macaulay Culkin.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you should go watch that movie. Actually, that's probably a great movie to watch after having a conversation with me, because you can kind of get in the mindset of like sort of how they acted, although those types of kids were a different breed than the ones that came later. They still interacted and acted like that. The drugs are still the same kinds of drugs. It's just, you know, like they have a completely different way, you know, like for most of them, it's a coping mechanism. A lot of them didn't talk about it. They would claim to be straight edge, but then, you know, like in secret, they would be doing, you know, cocaine or something else. And
well, what I'm curious about is Eliza Blue has made a career out of being a so-called survivor. And she's very adamant about, you know, making sure that everybody knows that she's dealt with this trauma in her life for a very, very long time, and it happened at a very, very young age. Has any of her celebrity pals, like Jeffree Star, made any comments as of recently, given Eliza Blue's recent infamy? Have they come out and said anything?
No, they've all been silent, actually. And she's been silent on them too. Let's be clear. Like she hasn't opened up her mouth at all.
There was that James Charles, Jeffree Star debacle where James Charles was caught in 4K. Am I getting that correctly? Messaging and being lewd with literal minors, like within the ages of like 13 to 15. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And she's never made any comments about this, given the history and the friendship that she had with Jeffree Star.
Correct. And she also never made any mention or any comments about, like events that Jeffree Star was, allegedly implicated in with underage individuals that go back as far as, 2007 when she was, when I first met her or whatever. So, it's not like there isn't documentation associated to it. It's just that I think that part of it was the fact that they were going directly over, overtly going to Jeffree because, he's ultimately the one with the money.
Yeah.
But, I think it was a bigger type of operation that was going on right under her noses. And then I look at what Eliza's been doing. And if you think about it, like back then, it would be almost unheard of to think that, like she would have been a prostitute or something of that kind. And even more so, it was like, I mean, you can't tell that somebody's a survivor just by looking at them or anything. But, like back then she was actually, I don't know, like maybe making light of it, cracking really bad jokes about it, tasteless jokes, if you would. And, like I remember asking her, like how she felt about the situation because, like I try to bring it up for people, be like, yo, have you ever heard of sex trafficking? It's a big problem. Seems like in the music industry online, you're a woman, you're beautiful. Have you ever had any issues with something like that? Like, has anybody ever tried to like message you and it ended up being a creepy old man? You're like underage. I was pretty clear forward about that because like, that's the kind of thing that, to me back then, I was just thinking like, damn, like this is how these predator types get you, like this is how they're getting all these young people, and the police don't have any understanding on how to stop this sort of thing. Like they could barely use the fucking computers that they got as it is. Yeah. So, like what are we going to do?
Yeah. And unfortunately the emo scene is largely like that because even like some of the older men that are in that scene, that are in that subculture of people, like they dress very young and hip and they look very young and hip, but they're like in their late 20s or in their 30s. I mean, this happened as well when I was in high school and I was a part of the scene. Like there was this local venue that we would all go to and everybody would party there. We'd listen to the local bands and then we'd, go to somebody's house and just drink and stuff. And there certainly was that element of like, there was that one guy who was notorious for preying on girls and doing, something illegal. Like some of the guys from Escape the Fate, they have history with some people that I know. There's a few other people that I can't mention just because of the relationships that I have. But all of that rings very, very true. So like just hearing what you're saying, it's just like, wow, it's like a flashback to things that I may have witnessed and experienced. Well, I was never preyed upon for sure, but I've heard stories and some girls have complained to me about some of the things that went on. And it's also, and now that this whole situation is blowing up the way that it has, it's very, very interesting because I had no idea Eliza Blue was like a scene kid or into emo shit. And I look at the older pictures of her when she was like a scene girl and I was like, dude, she's super cute. And now I'm like, what the hell happened? Now you look like a villain from Hunger Games. What's going on here?
Yeah. What the fuck is that?
I know. It's like, dude, I don't like this haircut, lose 20 pounds. You're good. But no, she's crazy. She's certified crazy. And a lot of people, like I was in the Twitter space earlier, and a lot of people were just afraid to just flat out call her a fucking liar. I don't believe, it's my opinion, that all of her trafficking claims are just patently false. I don't want to get too into it, but she says that she's worked cases before. She's got a large caseload of, victims that she's handling. Do you have
biggest caseload I've ever heard of in my life?
It's like, what was it, like?
There's
60
no way.
or 90 or something stupid like that?
Well, she said she had 60, and it's like, a real caseworker would never have probably more than 10, maybe 20. And I think there's like an actual physical limit. I mean, there's like actual limits to what apparently you could do, and it's even specified by state. In her particular state, it seems like that's just an impossibility, just at face value. You don't even have to look it up. Like, how did you, like, what, how are you tabulating each of these cases, and what are you saying? Oh, well, I'm talking to 60 different people on Twitter. Is it you're talking to 60 or 30 people on Twitter and 30 people via a different platform,
like
just because you're okay, maybe you used to be really prolific in the chat rooms, right? Because she used to always do that, right? She was always on AOL Instant Messenger messaging with people. Then she's moved on through every platform that's been there. And I mean, even for a long time in her history, from like 2000 at least 10 to almost 2016, even beyond, it seems that she was on Chatstar, which is basically like a chat site where you're messaging with, cam girls, basically. And then, you can arrange meetups and private shows or whatever the heck. And this is like the insidious part of the system, is that, okay, maybe she got into trafficking later, right? Maybe this is something that she went into. It's just that it's her own story that it happened to her when she was a kid, during a time when like the internet wasn't around, barely anybody had computers. So it's not like she was getting emailed by a guy. Like, some dude would have had to have been writing her letters and stuff. And like, how's that even gonna work? Like, where did you meet this guy? It seems like a almost impossible story to confirm.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe it did happen and she didn't tell anybody about it. But like,
the most generous interpretation of all this that I could afford to somebody like Eliza is like, maybe at some point in time she was taken advantage of and exploiting, but it probably would not legally amount to sex trafficking. She was on Michael Malice's show, and she gave the most BS definition of what sex trafficking was. She's like, oh, and it was such a convoluted answer. It's like, oh, these guys took pictures of me on Twitter, and then they're on Instagram, and they're profiting off of it. And Michael Malice is not a stupid guy. He's a liar, but he's not a stupid guy. And he's like, well, how do they make money? Of course they weren't making fucking money off of this. It's ridiculous. And
they can make money off of it, bro. You're just not seeing the point of it. So these guys are taking her pictures and stuff off of the Camchair site, and then they're basically bringing in motherfuckers for her, like leads.
Well, the way that she didn't mention that
and
part.
Taking a cut.
Yeah,
well, obviously.
She
obviously she's not going to mention that part.
She's just like hanging out on Instagram talking about, whatever, basic bitches talk about. And then all of a sudden she discovers that there's these random profiles leading to really seedy websites. But what you're saying makes a lot more sense. It was always a scheme to make her rich, to make her money, to boost her profile.
Exactly. These guys are helping her. Think about that.
Yeah, that makes
They're helping her. Think about this. So like, there's two things in particular. She actually promoted two of the different websites on her profile. So like, there was one, GG Girls, and then the other one was Camstar. I wouldn't go to you can probably maybe go to their like Twitter accounts, because they actually have Twitter accounts, believe it or not. But Chatstar was one of them. Chatstar is one of the main ones, and that's the one she promoted, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a cam girl site, and she was saying, yeah, you can come talk to me and chat with me on there so I can make money. And then if you go look, these fake profiles, or these whatever she's talking about that no longer exist, really just seem to be her profiles that actually got deleted during the whole Sexta Fosta crackdown that was out there. So those are websites that you would go to meet, like chat models that you would eventually pay money to have sex with. And the strangest thing here is that, like, it's pre-OnlyFans. And when Sexta Fosta went down, basically a lot of this sex trafficking stuff went underground, so you can't go to Backpage anymore, you can't go to Craigslist anymore. Now it's like you have to go to a Fediverse client, and what those things do is they basically are the same thing as they ever was. It's just that now they use Bitcoin. And I mean, getting a prostitute, the average is like $1,500 to $5,000 per or whatever. And just interestingly enough, if you go to Eliza's blockchain address or whatever, there's a lot of like really sizable transactions that are going in and out from that like particular price range, and they all seem to be coming from this really, really big singular account, and it's not an exchange, and it doesn't seem to be one of the mixers, but it seems to be utilizing a mixer like service to create individual ins and outs for everything that's going out. And basically, like, Eliza's like getting like some sizable donations, it seems, you know, like 5 bitcoins, 4 bitcoins, 3 bitcoins.
Jesus.
But for what, you know, we don't know. But, you know, they're going into her bank account and then getting split off into, you know, trading or whatever the heck. And it's the address that she's listing as her address.
Dude, that's interesting as hell. Like, my concern is that, you know, getting the fame is just the cherry on top. What I see is an individual positioning themselves among the right wing because the left clearly has rejected her. So she's positioning herself among right-wing circles as somebody who's going to be a gatekeeper. This is the second person I see attempt to do this. However, she's successful. She's, you know, talking with the big wigs and the biggest wig at Twitter and is able to get people banned or locked out of their accounts. In your case, you were permanently banned again. And she is a gatekeeper. And the dead giveaway, the dead giveaway was around Dinesh D'Souza's release of 2,000 Mules, when he basically showed receipts for the bullshit election of 2020. And she was being dismissive about it because I know a lot of her fans are on the right, and they're like, they asked her, like, why don't you talk about 2,000 Mules? And she was like being dismissive, calling it 2,000 boomers, and she was being a total bitch. And alarms went off in my head. I'm like, something is not right about this individual. And I never looked into her. I only, you know, seen her posts and I retweeted them because I was like, I'm obviously against the sex trafficking and the Epstein, you know, lifestyle. But now I see what is going on here. And, you know, this is a total grifter who wanted to position herself, you know, within these right-wing circles to be a gatekeeper. That, you know, much like Jack Murphy. Jack Murphy tried to do the exact same thing. He positioned himself around congressional candidates and members of Congress and people who literally worked for President Trump who were in his cabinet. And, you know, he did interviews with them. He hung out with them. You know, he hung out with a lot of like the big name, the big manosphere guys like Mike Cernovich. And then, of course, fortunately, you know, we were able to oust him. But Eliza Blue was a lot harder. There's so many people who have interacted with her, who boost her profile, who are silent on this matter. What is your opinion about Tim Pool's silence and complicity in propping up this individual and making her, you know, the e-celeb that she is?
Well, I mean, I've never been a huge Tim Pool fan, you know, like I never saw anything that I didn't do and get a lot less traction for. So to me, he's always had a manipulated upbringing. You know, he's gotten a lot of lucky breaks for being a skater, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But where they're positioned now, and him not really saying anything and taking all of that money, you know, probably $20,000 in one night in super chats alone, just to not answer anything, really just shows that his character isn't what he tries to make it out to be. He says that he's a culture war warrior and they're out there fighting the culture war, but when something like this, that's a cultural issue that is knee deep, neck deep, right in his territory, he's, you know, basically silent on it. And then the only reason that they bring anything up is because they're finally trying to let it out that, oh, well, we are actually investigating it. You know, we just wanted to, like, you know, build up the suspense on it and, you know, really, really soak in the money for it. So I don't look at it as a positive thing. I think that this new article that's going to come out, or, you know, investigative report, is going to be some really wishy-washy garbage, probably, where there's not a lot of information. I mean, all you have to do is go look at Shane Cashman's Twitter profile.
Yeah.
There's a link to his Yeezy article, or his Yee article, where he just, you know, the last thing that he did was talking to Kanye West. And then you got Eliza Blue say, yeah, I'm going to do something with Kanye. Who do you think's hooking him up? You know, these guys have been hanging out for a while. More than anything, they've been, I think that ever since my thread came out and people started pepper bombing Tim Pool's people for over a week, like, they're saying that it's inauthentic, but it's not true. I just
No.
made a thread and people have been throwing it at them, and those are all real fucking people.
When did you make
And
that
they've just
thread?
been ignoring. It
When
was
did you-
the
December, right?
26th, of December.
Okay, so we're
26th of
nearly at
December.
the end of January of 2023. So last year in December, at the end of December, mid-December-ish, Defango publishes this Twitter thread. It was, he came with receipts. There's video links, all Eliza Blue's words, so there's nothing left to interpretation or left to the imagination. So you came with concrete receipts. Now that thread has obviously been nuked along with your channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, with just my Twitter account. And like Cassandra Fairbanks, she
Yeah.
knows who I is. And that's the funny thing is that like Temple and all those guys are definitely 100% aware of who I was. And, I just kind of laugh because like I've never been an outward supporter, but I'm also not a dick rider. I'm a loner for the most part in this, whole entire space because like I can't trust these people as far as I could throw them. Trust me, I could throw them very, very far, much farther than they thought that they would ever think possible. And I think that like this like just shows that it doesn't really matter how big or small you are. Like there's infamy, and the level of infamy that the name Defango apparently brings in some circles is vast. Like,
yes, yeah,
Cassandra is talking all this shade and throwing all this shade on all these people, but nobody even thinks to ask me, well, how come they didn't even ask Defango to come on? And I'm like, Cassandra would. I'm like, it would never happen in a million years because Cassandra wouldn't allow it because she doesn't like me. Like that's
she blocked
base
me.
point.
Yeah, she blocked me. She's a gatekeeper for sure. And all I basically said was like, what's up with you guys? Like, don't you have any shred of integrity? Like, this is a serious problem. You have one of your guests that you platformed on your show and you gave them, access to your millions of, viewers, and they're censoring people for asking a legitimate question about a video that's on YouTube that is monetized, that wasn't private in any way, shape, or form. Now, we mentioned Shane Cashman earlier, so the Umbrella guy, somebody who was censored earlier, he says, wait, so Eliza Blue had a Tim Pool writer spending days with her while all this censorship banning BS was popping off? So Eliza Blue writes 7 hours ago, I wasn't going to say anything about Shane Cashman spending a few days with me, but the information was made public, so here we are. January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. It's a busy time. It's a busy time for survivors, advocates, and others in the movement. I was busy, still am. Now, I want to ask really quick. I don't want to get too into it because I don't want to dox myself, but I understand what working cases looks like in regards to victims of abuse and neglect, mostly minors. I understand police work, detective work, like on a professional level. So when she says that she's working 60 cases, does anybody know? Is she working for an organization? Like, I'm thinking, like, technically, how is she technically doing this? Like, is there, is there an app? Is there like a service that she works for, a nonprofit or anything like that at all that we're aware of?
We know that she worked with the Foundation for Virginia Gouffre for a while. We don't know if she's still doing that, but like there's really no evidence of any type of 501c3 that she has or is associated with besides that Eve's Angels.
Yes.
And even that seems questionable at best because of, the lady being behind it, basically getting sued by her family for making everything up about them and losing because she didn't even show up to court.
Yeah, yes, I do. I recall seeing that as well. It's very interesting. Another question about Eliza's upbringing, because she likes to embellish her past. And I don't know if it was on Tim Pool's show, but she said that she was like a farm girl. She grew up on that farm life, but her mother is a dean of a college, or at least she was a few years ago. And her dad is a prominent politician with committee assignments in the state legislature in Illinois. So where's the farm life?
And also a professor.
Yeah.
And they also have like 100 cows, apparently.
Do they do any of the farm work themselves, or do they have people attending to these matters? Are you
obviously they have people attending to these matters.
Oh, okay. So Eliza Blue wasn't, toiling around in the mud and the, the horse manure. Somebody else.
She's like Beth Dutton from Yellowstone. You seen Yellowstone?
Yes, I do. I get that reference.
She's like Betha and only more of a bitch and dumber.
More of a bitch
she's
and
like
less intelligent. Got it.
she's less intelligent. She's got the intelligence level of Rip when he was young. So
right.
that's the way I look at it. Like I look at Eliza because she never really grew up. Like she thinks that she can manipulate all these people, and it sucks though, is because I like to talk about my shit for a little bit. It's like I grew up with a person that like exhibits all the same types of tendencies, and I'm gonna call my mother. And like my mom is the same type of like personality that she is, where like I grew up watching my mom do shady shit all of the time, but like try to like make sense of it for herself or whatever, justify it in her own head. And then later on in life, once I finally got the realization of what I was actually dealing with, things changed, and I was able to like, finally get a little bit of space in the whole situation, because now that I understand what I didn't before, I start to see it in other people. And, it's almost textbook of it's like textbook narcissism that when you're dealing with Eliza,
yes,
that's, just basically probably been diagnosed, but never been treated. And then, like these people are almost bipolar in the same sense, is because like they do have two different personalities that they can exhibit, and they can fluidly change their persona almost on a dime. So like like they're a little psychopathic in a sense, like not to the level of being like a criminal psychopath, but like almost there, right? Like more than willing to justify things in their brains in order to make some shady thing that they're doing make sense to them. And it all starts with the way that they word things. It's like there was a really good video that somebody posted about her talking with that Annie Donowald person, the pink chick, and they're talking about I'm an ex-prostitute, and now I fight against sex trafficking or whatever. And they're like, no, don't say prostitute, we didn't know that there was a better word for it, right? And it's not like there's a better word for it, they're just taking one thing and calling it something else because it's kind of the same in their brains, but it's really not.
So now those mysterious Bitcoin or crypto transactions make a lot more sense. We're not insinuating anything, but it's highly suspicious activity, to say the least. And again, these are her own words, because I know the video that you're talking about. I'm gonna play a video really quick. I want to share the audio with you guys, but I'm afraid that if I reroute it while midstream, it's gonna fucking break. But you saw the video where it was a short clip, the quarter even reacted to it, where she basically is talking about her utopian ANCAP fantasy, and she's saying that minors can consent. You saw that video, correct?
Yeah, I saw that one, the one that Christy Bear posted earlier today.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and share it with the chat really quick. Let me just go. It's really short. It's only 55 seconds long. All right, guys, here we go. All right, it's not playing. Dick Masterson, while it's loading, Dick Masterson writes, "This is a sick comment on his face, but there is a bigger point to it. Eliza Blue doesn't even understand what sexual exploitation is. She's describing grooming here as good. She thinks embarrassing pictures are assault. She thinks catfishing is trafficking. Complete moron." Yeah. All right, hold on. I got to play this other video right here from Christy Meyer. All right, here we go. All right, now why are they not playing?
Click into it because they've probably deleted the video by now.
Oh, is that what's going on?
Acknowledge that there are many people
not,
who
you
are.
just need to reload it.
You know what? I posted it. Let me see if it's on. All right, here we go. Oh no, let's go to media.
Looks like it's playing though.
It did, but then as soon as like I go to activate the audio, it just like shits itself. Oh yeah. All right, here we go. This is much shorter. It's only 45 seconds. Come on, baby. Well, I guess we're not gonna get to watch it, unfortunately. But yeah, essentially, this clip shows Eliza Blue saying that it is okay.
Focus on the word.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
So let's pretend like we all have our utopia.
Oh my god, what the fuck? All right, so as soon as I touch the dial, it just shit itself. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, she basically states that in her perfect world, it is totally okay for teachers, neighbors, and religious leaders in the so-called community to assess whether or not a child can consent to engaging in sexual activity. These are the words that are coming out of her mouth. So regardless of the age of a child, if they exhibit, certain behaviors that would suggest that they're ready for this thing, then the community can agree whether or not they can engage in that activity or not. First off, it's no one's fucking business what these kids do. Two, why the hell would you want to involve your neighbor, your priest?
So if I could answer this in utopia, right? In my perfect in cap utopia, each community, and each so it'd be.
Oh my god, this fucking app. It's probably OBS, just like taking a shit. Let's see. What is her last name? What if her last name was Brown? It's Moreland or something like that. So yeah.
Each caregiver, parent, and community, including teachers,
making a joke
potential
about
faith leaders,
Blue.
and neighbors, will
Eliza Brown. I don't know. Okay, well, this is unwatchable because Twitter is just not cooperating right now. Who knows? Maybe Elon Musk is throttling anti-Eliza Blue content. But yeah, she essentially said that. It's on my profile, so feel free to watch it whenever you guys want. But yeah, I mean, she's saying that. I mean, this is somebody who claims to be an advocate for children who are exploited, and now apparently wants to involve priests, teachers who should never be trusted, and neighbors in regards to what these children do with presumably other children. And then she's like, oh, well, it depends on their grades too. On their grades. So I guess if they get an A+ on their science report or something, they can get laid. I don't know. I don't understand this thinking. Eliza Blue's kind of a dumbass. She's not impressive at all, but she's managed to capture the attention of one of the most richest, most powerful men in human history, even receiving an electric car from this individual. How did that happen?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Well, so what's the story behind that?
Nobody knows. I mean, it seems like she met him. They did some Teslarati events. She said she needed a car. She got a lease from Elon, apparently. Because when he gives people cars, he gives them leases.
Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know what to make of that. Oh, yeah, by the way, Cheese. Feel free to jump in at any point in time. Don't be shy, son. Don't be shy. But yeah.
I told you before the show started.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember.
I do remember. Well, just in case,
Okay.
just in case. So yeah, goodness, man. So I wanted to talk about.
Just in case what?
Oh, in case I forgot, I suppose. Because I was like, I was like, dude, let's prep some questions and stuff like that. Let's get ready for the show. He hasn't been following the Eliza Blue drama because he doesn't think it impacts him. In my opinion, I think this issue is worth talking about merely because of the censorship that has impacted so many content creators, even big ones like Jimmy from the Quartering, Brittany Venti, etc. I know the Umbrella Man and the Yellow Flash. I don't know those two individuals, but I know they got big followings as well, and they were censored briefly. So I think it's important. And not only that, I see this trend of these grifters who end up on popular shows like the Timcast show, Timcast IRL, and then they end up being the most duplicitous, talentless hacks, the most nefarious individuals whose sole purpose is to gatekeep. The way that Eliza Blue is reacting and behaving, this is exactly what Jack Murphy did. He got his goons that are a part of his cult, the Seminole Order, and they were talking about
Seminole?
Yeah, or Liminal Order. My bad. We always say Seminole.
Criminal?
Yeah, more like criminal order. Yeah, they're like they're gonna set up a war room on their forums, and they're gonna go after Jeremy from the Quartering. They're gonna do like exposés. They're gonna do basically just counter research, opposition research against content creators who slighted Jack Murphy. And it was totally bizarre. And then even one of his own members of his cult, they ended up going on a killing spree in Colorado, killing multiple people. And Jack Murphy was the guy who wrote the popular book From Democrat to Deplorable. But for whatever reason, the press didn't touch this. They didn't make a big stink about it. They didn't go after him the way that they went after like the Covington Catholic kids. And I always thought that was highly suspicious that they wouldn't do something like that, given who he was and who he's talked to and he's buddy with. And now we have a situation where Eliza Blue is, in my opinion, a demonstrable fraud who's never been a victim of sex trafficking, per her own words. And nobody wants to talk about this so-called right-wing figure, this right-wing darling, pal of Elon Musk, who is exploiting genuine victims of abuse and violence and other horrific crimes. Something stinks here, man. What is your, how do you feel about the weird air surrounding this case?
I don't feel good about it at all. I mean, I didn't want to lose my Twitter account again and prove that Elon Musk was again full of shit and just basically asleep at the wheel. I mean, he said he was going to let people come back. He said he was going to do all of these things. And at the end of the day, they did none of those things. And then on top of that, now it seems like this chick who has no experience in any of this stuff is now basically able to do whatever she wants. And I just like, it's a bad taste, man.
Yeah.
Like super bad taste. Like I thought this was going to be good, but now I know it's bad. It's bad. And there's nothing we can do about it. That's what's the worst part.
Worse. It gets even worse. Cause I have right here on the screen from Red State Media, redstate.com, activist Eliza Blue cancels creators, appears to ramp up Twitter censorship. Editor's note, this article has been retracted due to editorial concerns. They never address what these concerns are. Brittany, Brutal Brittany on Twitter, she wrote a brief tweets like, we had to disable this article. We had to take it down. We're not allowed to elaborate further on it. And that was it. Do you have any insight as to what is going on with Red State Media?
I don't. She called me and left me a message saying that they had to take the article down and didn't give us any other information about it. Actually,
it's very, very unfortunate.
Information.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, it just they took it down. She still seems to be following it, but it's like something happened to cause them to make it come down. And
Monday.
I don't know.
Maybe it's money. Maybe it's dad said, no, you need to take it down or we're going to sue you. Nobody knows.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, she did threaten to sue Brittany Venti, Ali Alexander, somebody I don't really trust. He claims that he's willing to foot the legal bill, finance a lawsuit against Eliza Blue, helping out Brittany Venti. I don't know how.
You don't trust Ali?
Nah, man. That guy used to
Why?
He used to be Karl Rove's lover.
I know everything about Ali, dude. He's just the
Karl Rove
player,
can't
bro.
be trusted. Karl Rove can't be trusted. I don't know.
Of course, but like, what influence does Karl Rove have nowadays? So what if they were doing a little bit of the horizontal mambo or whatever? Or somebody was sucking somebody off. I mean, it's none of your fucking business, bro.
Well, dude,
I mean, does that make him any less effective as a player? No, you just know that, hey, don't send them after bitches. Send them after dudes.
Yeah, it was like the whole Steven Crowder might have been bi thing. I loved how Manic was like that. He's like, who cares?
I remain skeptical.
Who cares?
I remain skeptical. I remain skeptical. And again, Owen
who cares
Benjamin
who sucks off who off, you know?
Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, when you present yourself one way and then it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I had this phase, moving on. It's like, wait a minute. What do you mean moving on? You built this entire empire on this image and it's not even real. I'm all about real shit. And when somebody just like slightly misrepresents himself or lies by omission, I just become highly suspicious. And again, I don't have any animus towards Steven Crowder, but it seems like that whole fiasco with the Daily Wire just didn't seem properly communicated by either side, really. I don't know. I really don't care too much about that stuff, but yeah, but we're almost approaching an hour. I wanted to ask, are you going to be a part of the documentary that Fair and Balance is doing?
Probably. I guess I already am a part of it. She's like, put me in it or whatever, but am I like helping her like find information and stuff? If she asked me to give her something, sure, but like that's about as far as I'm a part of it. She's working on it predominantly like all by herself, so I'm not involved in like editing or making decisions or whatever. I mean, I might have just handed her some information. That's about it.
Oh, okay. When was the last time that you talked with like Eliza Blue, like properly talked to her?
Shit, that's probably sometime last year, probably like October, maybe.
Ooh. Damn. May I ask what was the nature of the conversation?
Well, I was trying to be like, hey, so you talked about going on the show. I see that you've gone on a bunch of other people's shows or whatever. Do you want to come on and, talk about things? That's basically, I think, all I had reached out to ask her about, but I don't think I actually got much anything. But she would still like comment or whatever on some of my tweets, which I thought was kind of strange. And then she still paid attention to them for quite some time afterwards because, I was always like subtweeting her or quote tweeting her or whatever and saying funny shit. And eventually I think that finally just like got to her. I don't know if it was a mixture of My Chemical Romance lyrics and asking her questions about her history, being like, so like which band member of My Chemical Romance was it, or was it like before that, it's a photographer, and then I would put out a picture of some random photographer, be like, was it this guy? Because I figured it's like a game. I was trying to play it this time as like, is this a game? This is like a who's game. So it's like, I got to give you the information. Yeah. And then, if I get the right guy, you'll tell me. But on the previous account, it was different. I was trying to go in a different manner. Like I didn't really troll her as much. I was more or less just like, hey, like I saw that you were having some beef with like Gabe Hoffman and some of these other people. I mean, like we're just trying to I think they're just trying to get to the bottom of it. Like I have a few questions that I'd like to get answered or whatever that I think that would, pretty much solve this whole entire problem for you. And, she wanted to talk. It seemed at first and the first time I even talked to her about any of this stuff was probably like back in 2020, dude.
Damn.
And I was like probably one of the first people to reach out to her, but she wouldn't give me any details about the story. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I've had a lot of problems with the SRA community and there's little story things and them not being true. So, like we have to ask these questions. There's just basic questions. Is there a legal document? Have you, named an accuser? Is there an individual that you're going after? And, like where, when, basic information. Like this is some basic ass information that anybody that's ever been abused should be able to answer.
Oh, yeah,
at least.
What,
like where, who, and why?
No, basic stuff. What compelled you to do that very detailed thread? That infamous thread that put you on the map. What made you say, you know what, I'm gonna do this? And then
I was already on the map, dog. That's the thing. Is like I did it because she blocked me after I think I posted some Helena lyrics at her in one of her comments or whatever. And I was just like, all right, fine, bitch, whatever, dude. You fucking lying ass grifter. I was like, well,
that's what she
I'm gonna post this thread. And then I went back into the archives and then I collected a bunch of stuff, actually. There's more. I have a way, like everything that everybody found, we already had. Like I just put together some of the more juiciest elements that would leave it open-ended because, if people haven't noticed that, like I've been capable of doing stuff like this before. There are other things I've been involved in that have taken off like this.
So
whether people want to believe it or not.
Well, I need to ask. Are there going to be more revelations about Eliza Blue's life and her shenanigans?
Probably. I think, like once we finally get some clarification on what Timcast is coming out with, because right now it's, a game of sandbagging, who can sandbag the hardest. And obviously it seems like it'd be easier for Eliza to win that game.
Yeah.
But essentially it's more or less a baited trap where, if they pull one thing, there's already something that's laying in the wait for them to step on. Or if they go a different route, maybe a different thing comes out, like the whole point of this whole entire debacle from the very beginning was that I wanted to see if she was actually being real. And, I wanted to help her make sure that people couldn't pick apart her story, essentially, so that she wouldn't have to deal with this kind of shit in the future. Oh, yeah. So, this is ultimately of her own design. And, I'm nobody, allegedly, but, if you Defango is allegedly also a legendary name in certain circles or whatever. Like most of the YouTube community knows exactly who I am, and either stays away from me with 100-foot pole or is totally cool with me. You know, there's no in between.
Yeah, no, I mean, you started blowing up and you ended up showing up on my feed. Like every content creator that I subscribed to was talking about you. Like Willie Mack, the Star Wars girl, the Quartering, obviously, you know, Fair and Balanced, etc. Like Chrissy Myers, the big one. You know, they're all talking about this, and they're using your thread primarily. I think one other person didn't use it, which is sus, but you know. They came to the same conclusion that Eliza Blue is a filthy liar, and
that's not sus.
Yeah,
it just means that they know who I am, and they're like, "Oh fuck no."
Yeah. Well, damn, dude. So what's next? In regards to Eliza Blue, because I know you guys aren't done yet. You're organizing those Twitter Spaces. You're getting, you know, you're rallying the troops.
Those are done. Nathan doesn't want to do them anymore.
What?
So
Why?
somebody else, because he's bored with it already. Plus he doesn't see like it's for him. He has a YouTube show, so like it's almost very strange for somebody like him. Like, you know, if you wanted to start that up, I actually think it would probably be good for a guy like you. It's just like crack on Twitter Spaces and roll a space on this, because it's basically open season for at least the next couple of days until the elusive Tincast article. But knowing them, it's probably going to be 2 weeks from now that they probably actually release that piece of shit. So like right now we're in the proverbial like content dead zone, the 10 days of darkness, as it were, to quote something else that I may or may not have been involved in, depending on how you know me. And so like during this particular time, like there's just going to be a whole lot of speculation for the next couple of days. And then people are just going to start like grasping at straws at things because no new information has come out. And then the second that the Timcast article comes out, there's just going to be a proverbial flood of information that's coming forward on all of this. Probably, you know, people are going to either be like, Defango's the worst person ever and he should die, or Defango was right, Tim Pool and the rest of them are full of shit. Or it could be a situation where, like, I don't know, maybe Eliza's actually full of shit. Her story doesn't really check out, and, you know, Tim Pool's like, we're done with her. There's a lot of ways it could go, but for the most part, I don't see me getting my Twitter account back.
No,
that sucks.
My alleged original account that may or may not exist is in limbo. They've denied the appeals multiple times for whatever reason, even though I didn't break the law or was engaged in any sort of harassment. I made a very cheeky comment towards Governor Greg Abbott, and they didn't appear to like it. And now allegedly that account that may or may not exist is banned. That's all I have to say on the matter. Well, yeah, man, you've been generous with your time, dude. That's about an hour. You're more than welcome to hang out for the rest of the show. I know Cheese is excited. Got to get him ready. So if you want to stay for it, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, man, I appreciate you finally getting on to answer these questions. And I've been wanting to talk with you and stuff. I know you've just been busy and, you know, you had things going on. So totally understand, man. Totally appreciate it.
Hey, no worries, man. Well, you know, I guess I'll just leave you guys here. I mean, I hope you guys have a good rest of your guys' show, and I'll definitely catch y'all on the flip side. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Defango, link in the description, you guys. It's in the description right now. Have a good night, buddy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys have a good night, too. Adios now.
Peace.
Adios.